Mike, I understand you went to LA Film School. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So how was that for you? Do you feel that it was worth it for you in the end?
Yeah, I did the producing major and cinematography major at LA Film School. Now, over 10 years ago, right? Class of 2003. And back then, the big thing was film. We had access to film. People were shooting on Super 16, and if you were lucky enough, you got to shoot on 35. So we ended up getting a grant from Panavision and Kodak, and we actually shot our thesis project there on 35 mil. And so it was like kind of the ultimate, because you're students, so you can sort of like say, hey, we're students, and then everyone kind of contributes to your project because you're a student. And so we ended up basically getting several $100,000 of expenses or donations or effort or free camera rentals or these kind of things because we were students. So that was exciting to sort of like get to make something that you wouldn't have been able to make if you weren't a student. So those times were very interesting, editing on these old Avid computers with like, I remember the hard drives that we were editing were like 125 gig, 250 gig IDE drives. And it was like, and you had to edit in proxy all these little Avid files. Things are way different now.
So aside from what you learned from lectures or in-class participation, what did you witness from your teachers that you took with you into your projects, just from their work ethic or how they approached people?
Yeah, when I was there at LA Film School, several of our teachers were actually working also, and so they were just off the set of big movies as a production designer, or had just had a an awful failure at a big time movie, and now could tell you what they did wrong. So it's sort of like learning from people that were like actually had the experiences to talk about, which is really cool. I remember my producing, instructor had kind of these horror stories of how things go wrong. And so in producing class, we kind of like would learn about things like that.
Right. What were some of the stories? Can you share, like, without maybe naming specific
Yeah,
projects?
just big sets and things gone wrong with nature and waiting for rain and delayed days and problems with actors, and you sort of like, oh wow, man, what am I getting into here? But you push through it and you learn various things. Cinematography class, just getting to meet some of these amazing cinematographers and talk about lighting, and just the people that know their craft, that have been in it already for a decade, and you kind of get those experiences in school. You kind of get to see through their eyes like some tips on what they've gone through.
And so in a nutshell, did they leave you with any like sayings or pieces of wisdom in terms of like, look, this is what you want to do. It's 10 times less glamorous than it appears?
Well, I remember at the time, we were in writing classes also. We took all the writing classes there at LA Film School. And one of the big things was, whoa, you're writing kid parts into your scripts here. Like, you want to stay away from that. Definitely stay away from kids and stay away from animals, because they're going to be chaos on your set. And like, you want to have an easy time here. Don't do it. Don't do it. And this was like, hey, this was told to us. But we were like, we know kids that are awesome, and we're going to do it anyways. And so in our thesis project, we ended up working with like a whole children's choir, 20 kids on set, and we did it.
And they behaved?
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
In terms of misconceptions people have about film school, what would you tell people ahead of time? Like, suppose there was someone that was maybe graduating high school and that was their plan, was to go the same route. What would be some of the things you would tell them? Be aware of this or that. Not that that particular school was bad, but in terms of the idea of what they would get from a film school education.
I think, one of the biggest things about film school is that it automatically brings together collaborators, because your class is another 30 kids that are also doing the same thing. And so the contacts you meet, the fellow filmmaking teams that you meet, I mean, some of the people that I know made connections back then that are still working together today on shoots. DPs that shot directors' projects, or producers that are working with directors. So the partnerships that you make in school end up being, sometimes being really solid forever. I mean, it's like an automatic friendship maker, basically. You put together with all these other people that are around the same age, and you're all wanting to make the same thing, to do the same thing, to work on movies. So it's I would say like, take advantage of it, because you're going to be in a scenario where you're never going to get 20,000 feet of free film again, right? So do it. Well, that was 10 years ago, but free camera rentals or free lighting packages or whatever you get as being a student, take advantage of it and like make something that you wouldn't be able to make out otherwise.